We have many small hand-dug ponds on our really moist half-acre site, and for the sake of the frogs and the fish and all the wildlife that are in them, I'd like to add more complexity, more perennial plants that can support them and that also are interesting to us. And so to that end, I am trying to grow American water lotus, the native lotus plant, and it is a tricky plant to begin from seed. And I want to share notes in this video. I did this last year, it worked well for me, and so I want to show you the tools that I'm using and some ideas for alternatives if you don't have these tools to be able to scarify water lotus seed so that it's willing to germinate. So stick with us. So in my case, what I'm using is, it's basically a knockoff Dremel. It's about $15, $20. I found this online. It's called a Wen. But basically, if you have a Dremel or if you have something like this, we have a little high-speed rotary tool with a coarse sandpaper, and you can see if I turn that on. This makes life very easy. You can also absolutely do this with a piece of scrap sandpaper or a file if that's what you have. But if I have one of these seeds, you can see it's more or less spherical. There's one part that has a little point to it, and one part that's like a little inny belly button. Last year I found if I were to nick either this side or this side, that would help germination. It seemed as though the inny side was the better side. And so what I do is I get a pair of pliers. I'm not crushing it, I'm just holding it firmly. And then with my rotary spinning tool and some sandpaper, I go in and I touch it, and I'm looking at it each time as I go. And I want to nick it just enough that I'm getting through the seed coat and I'm seeing a lighter color underneath. Not the easiest process. Now I'll pause here. What you can see is it's a little lighter, but more importantly in this case it made a little hole through the shell of the seed. And that's all I need. I don't need to go any further, and all I can do, or all I need to do now, is drop this into a little cup of clean water, or pond water in this case. And so I'll do that with a few more seeds. If these seeds were to be completely unscarified, they more or less will last indefinitely without germinating. But as soon as you nick that seed coat, especially on the little belly button, sorry, on this side here in particular, it seems to really help it break dormancy and start germinating. So we'll do a follow-up video once I've gone through and nicked all these. In a few days they'll start to germinate and grow, and then we'll talk about how we'll take those, some of them we'll put into pots of water in order to grow them on for a little bit, and others, this year what I'd like to do is when they're just beginning to germinate is set them into the edges of the ponds rather than transplanting them so they can naturalize a little bit faster. So thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and nick some more of these and you can check it out if you're interested. If you don't have a tool like this, but you happen to have a file, in this case this is a flat file, it's a little slower, but this works just as well. And so I'll show you, again, I'm using these pliers. That part's pretty important. And I'm going to work it over, checking periodically. You can see why you'd want an electric tool. There's enough white there.
Is there?
That should germinate